Welcome into another episode of the Power Hour. I am Steve. That is the urban sensation C-Red. And tonight, whopper of a show, people. If you've been living under a rock for the last decade and a half, maybe more, we'll get into that.
22. Get it right. 22.
22. If you've missed anything in independent wrestling here in the Midwest, our guest tonight has his handprints all over it, or maybe his fist prints, depending on who's on the receiving end of it. I called him in the promo the most dangerous man in Chicago wrestling. That is absolutely an accurate statement. I have been calling his matches since the dawn of my broadcasting career. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce, of course, the one, the only, the incomparable, the immortal Ice Pick Vic Capri. Vic, thanks for your time tonight.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Once upon a time, I started broadcasting independent wrestling. I went to broadcasting school. They said, hey, Steve, why don't you go out and do some play-by-play for this local wrestling company? It was called PCW. I had no idea at that time it was going to suck me in and consume me whole. And when I got to PCW, I was the third to last show. I started in October at the Halloween show, did November, and then in December, it was all over. But for everybody that knows PCW and loved that promotion, as many do, I hear stories about it all the time. The way that show ended, the way that promotion ended is one of the most violent things I had ever seen live to that point. And the main event of that show was Joe Heisman versus Vic Capri. Now, that was the first time I'd seen Vic in action. And we were at a broadcast table kind of at the back of the arena, kind of looking forward. And I watched these two men go to every square inch of this arena, beating the holy Christ out of one another. There's a balcony, and we're watching them go up the stairs to the balcony area. And I'd never seen, this kind of wrestling before. I'd seen, stuff at the United Center and at the Allstate Arena, but it had been years since I'd seen the indie stuff. So I wasn't expecting it to go to the balcony. And I keep looking up because I'm looking at Heisman and Vic on the balcony going, be careful, you're going to fall. And then the next thing you know, they have 16 tables stacked one on each other. Now he'll correct me, but it's 16 tonight. And thrown off the balcony, dush, 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 table after table, carnage, debris, smoke, fire, apocalyptic situations everywhere. And at the end of that particular show, it was over. And I'm like, what do you mean it's over? I just saw two men die. What are you talking about? And after that, it seemed like everywhere I would kind of end up, I would see Vic at some point doing something else and beating the holy Christ out of people. So Vic, you left an impression on me very early in my career. Talk to us about those PCW days. And there were 20 tables, weren't there? I mean, let's not be modest here.
Drop the zero off. There was only two. There was only two. There's no fire, no explosions, nothing like that. We actually didn't even find out that that was going to be the last show until right before Heisman and I went out. So they just kind of told us, go out there and just leave it all out there. And we had walked through some stuff and figured things out, but it was a hell of a match. We beat the crap out of each other. The funniest story is what hurt the most wasn't even the tables. It was the stale gingerbread house that busted my head open.
I remember that gingerbread house.
Yeah, he gave me a drop toe hold and went right into it, and that's what actually cut me a little bit. So the tables weren't the worst part of the match.
And it was such a great show. I mean, the house was packed. I mean, it was standing room only. I want to say, my memory fails of the location, but was it at Oak Lawn? I think it was, or it was Villa Park. It was something like that.
That was at, what did they used to call it? Galley used to run there all the time, I guess, in Wooddale, I think?
Yes. Okay, that's it. So it was a big crowd, and they had a special guest that night. It was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So it was a night that I thought, I'm like, my God, these people are insane. How did I get so lucky to be calling this match? and I'm watching everything that's going on, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's the last show." I'm like, "What? How is that
Yeah.
even possible?" So I mean, I never really got. I've talked to many people that have worked at PCW. I mean, I still know many of them. I met many of them, people I still work with now. Whatever happened to PCW that made them go away? They were really on the upswing, I thought.
But I don't know what really happened. I wasn't in the office with them, so I'm not sure exactly where it all kind of came down to. It's just I think it was a money situation, and they just made the decision to finally take a step back. Um, I mean, the only thing I can think of is they were the first company to bring Sting in
Right.
after Sting had um, was no longer under contract with anybody for a while, and I personally know how much it cost them because another promoter let me know because they approached him and he gave them a number and they refused to bring him in for that number. So I mean that could have been where it started its downfall, but I don't know. I wasn't involved, like I said, in the office. But I mean, personally, my opinion, Sting wasn't worth that kind of money, but the fans that came to meet him and enjoyed it and stuff like that. But
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
if that's where the downfall started, I mean, I guess we can blame Sting. But like I said, I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating.
Don't do that, Vic. Don't.
Blaming Sting. That's
because I've only had 2 titles in this business. Everybody knows Shawn Michaels, and a lot of people don't know a Sting. So I was invited to that show.
I remember seeing you. I remember seeing you.
And then the crazy part is to have the person that invited me, hey, you want to meet Sting now? Really? Really? Did you? Hell yeah, I want to meet Sting. But here's the funny part. So Steve brings up this nice little sweet story of, PCW and, let's be honest, we've got history, Vic. We've got Windy City history.
Yeah, I know.
So nobody grasps the concept that, so before I joined Windy City, of course I went to the shows. So the thing that got me with Vic Capri, first of all, the name, the Ice Pick, Vic Capri. And then you find out he's part of the outfit. But there was an 8x10, and if my ex-wife hasn't thrown it out, it's at her house. And it's him and Jason Ring standing on a beach, no shirts on, just
that was me and Mike Anthony who were the tag champs.
Well, I know it was somebody. And I'm like, damn, I want to look like that. If you go to Windy City, I want to look like that and stand on the beach with a belt.
It's funny because we're staging my parents' house to move, and my mother actually found that in a book in her library and showed it to me the other day. But I left it there, and I got to pick it back up.
Hold on to it.
I know exactly what picture you're talking about.
Them sound promos are hard to come by now, But it's funny. But so you bring up 2014 when this happened, right?
Right.
PCW. Yeah. So in 2012, there was a little group in the little town of LaSalle. And that is the infamous C Red turns on Marche.
Yeah.
And joins the revolution. So it was Mustafa Ali. I want to say his name right.
Yeah.
Mustafa Ali, Vic Capri, Austin Roberts, Jay Rapstill, and myself. And nobody saw the swerve coming. Nobody saw the swerve coming. Nobody.
No, so we did that in the cage too.
Yeah. And that was the beautiful part that nobody, and if you remember, I wore a suit the beginning. So when we go out and I'm with Marche, I'm in a suit. and then he gets hurt, and then I rush to the back and come back, and I'm all camoed out, and I'm ready to take whoever's spot, and I turn on Marche.
Yep.
And the crowd went ballistic. Like, what? But the best part, if you remember, and that was that was October of 2012, but the next month was November, and I can't think of the name of the show, but it was the best fun I don't care. There's nothing that would ever compare. We had a in-ring, the show started with a in-ring, we giving thanks for meal. Now the stipulations to the match are whoever loses that match that night between factions, the A-list or the Revolution, they have to disband forever. But we did already got one over on the A-list, so we're cocky. So we have a Thanksgiving feast. Now, Steve, to understand, and the fans to understand, this was a real feast.
The mashed potatoes, the stuffing, the cranberries, you name it. Everything all laid out on the table.
It was real. It wasn't like, oh, somebody went and got a $5 turkey. No, they spent money just for this segment. So here we all are, the Revolution, and what we're giving thanks for. And then the A-list comes out and food starts flying. And when I say everybody was hitting everybody with turkey legs and cranberries, stuffing peas in people's shorts, and oh my God, I've never had that much fun. Like, you felt like you were back in high school and somebody yelled food fight.
Well, that's the thing with Dreamwave is Jay would have these ideas and let us run with it. And it's the crowd in LaSalle is always just amazing.
Always.
And just the ideas he would come up with, like this food fight thing, was just so much fun. I just remember another thing from Dreamwave. I remember, I don't know if you were there. This was one of the 4th of July or around that time over the summer outdoor at the park. And
I did a couple.
It was, I think Brubaker was working Davey Richards. And at the end of the match, we came out, everybody started hitting each other. They got up on us, and Foxy had come out with a tub of water balloons. And they went around and they passed it out to all the kids in the crowd. And they just started pelting us with water balloons. And it's the end of the show, so we don't care that the ring is soaking wet, but you're in wrestling boots and they're a flat sole. So you have no traction whatsoever. And even legit just trying to get up, you couldn't do it. You would just slip and fall as soon as you try to take a step. And they probably went through at least 100, 150 water balloons. But it was the best. That was one of the best times I think I've ever had. Those two things that we did, I think were the most fun.
I mean, for me, Dreamwave will forever just hold a special part for me. Again, to share the locker room. And I mean, again, all of us at some point or another crossed paths. But I mean, when I got there and you think about it's me, it's you, it's Boz, it's Austin Roberts, it's Brubaker, when he wore the mascara. I mean, just there was this
80s Ali.
Right. It was all these people that I knew, and it was like, and then the people I didn't know, we became friends. And it in the locker room was the best place to be. Like, I would have more fun being downstairs in that little dingy basement versus, when Shay's match going on. Okay.
So the best was trying to see who was going to be louder between Shane Hollister and Marche.
You already knew that was at some point it was going to be Shay. At some point, it was like
the loudest and the two funniest guys in the locker room, though.
and it was a blast. And so to say all of that to say this is it was a honor that night during the revolution again, and even though I only did it for 2 shows, to finally manage one of my idols. Because you have to understand when you go to Windy City, so Steve never was at the studio.
Right.
I
So
get
to go to
reminded
the
of that often.
studio and you have all these pictures and these 8x10s of all the guys that have come before you, all the guys. And sometimes it's intimidating because I had seen Vic on TV. I had seen Vic making his name around the country. I had seen Boz on TV and Mike Anthony, and they're constantly out there on in the paper and making a name for them. So you have to carry that load, because and I mean it's easy for you to laugh because you're Vic Capri, you know.
No,
For
it's not
me,
easy, but I know exactly what you're saying. It's just there are times I'll go to the ring and they announce me as the Chicago legend, and it's like, oh, stop doing that, please. Don't do that anymore.
dude, they call me that at times now. They'll be like, "You're a Chicago legend." Damn, I ain't dead yet. Hold on, But to manage Vic again, and some of my best moments wasn't even in the business. It was the outfit and watching all of that play out on access TV and cable TV. Ain't that sad? But you had to watch it. But then you get the banner. You want to be a wrestler? Want to be a referee? Want to be a manager? You got to go to school. And I think it was like, what was it, 976 WCPW or something like that?
Something
Like,
like that.
right. So it was like, eventually I made the call, but it was intimidating, And when I, first time I met Vic, one of the, the coolest guys. See, that's what I love about Vic. He's a great guy in back. I don't want to be in, like, when the curtain
Yeah.
and go through the ropes. I don't want to be on the side against him. I want to be on the side with him. Because I've at this point I've seen Vic up close and personal too many times, and he's hit me a few. So
Once or twice.
just once or twice, But that's then you feel like a kid in a candy store, like pow, my idol hit me, yay, okay, you know. But that's the beautiful part of coming from such a lineage like Windy City, that all you guys came through. None of you guys, I'm gonna be honest, I never met anybody that came before me didn't treat me like just one of the guys.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, that's one of the things Sam was really good at. It was, um, teaching the guys to be respectful. Whenever you went into a locker room, it wasn't your home. You said hi to everybody. You were nice to everybody. You were professional. It was a black mark on his name and on Windy City's name back then. That's part of the reason why he wasn't big on people going outside of Windy City, because it was his name stamped on it. So if somebody messed up, it came back and looked bad on him. And I've been in locker rooms where whoever trained them, whether they didn't beat it into their head or they just didn't listen, and people aren't that way. And it's a lot different now. I mean, I will admit that, but you get some guys that are still, they still get it, they still understand, and no matter what time you come in, you can make sure you say hi to everybody and you're good with everybody, and nobody bitches and nobody complains. So
yeah, but we got that, and but again, it just wasn't about that locker or other locker rooms. It was about that
someone.
particular locker room, and to know that at some point I had earned people's respect.
Well, there was
And
here to explain how it really was I got pulled aside and yelled at one day by Sam because he thought I didn't say hello to his mom on a show. I mean, that's how it was. And it started falling out between me and Sam because I would never do that. I loved Mrs. D. She was a beautiful woman, and super sweet, and it was always there for the guys if you needed water or anything. So, but it was like, wait a minute. Yeah, I make a point to make sure I say hi to your mom because I love your mom. She's great. She reminds me of my mom and my grandmother. So, I mean, but that's kind of how it was. You had to be that professional. That's what he wanted out of it.
I think he got it, again, I'm not gonna say I'm the last, but I think, with a few exceptions, I think that last class with me and Shay, Isaiah, Marco, I think that was it. And it's funny because Steve brings up PCW. There was a time, Steve, you don't understand. You would have never saw a Windy City guy on a PCW show. Like, no, 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 no.
Couldn't go to PCW, couldn't go work for Bonomo, couldn't go work for CCW or PWI, nobody. Anybody that left Sam, you weren't allowed to work for.
So, I mean, I, again, thank you for giving me, if nothing else, those two shows in LaSalle, I hated that our run ended so abruptly.
Yeah.
But mashed potatoes and peas and turkey flying, hell, who could ask for anything else? I mean, if you're gonna go out, you might as well go out with a food fight,
Yeah.
So
I am certainly no stranger to being assaulted with food. I've made a bit of a career out of it in certain times, and some things that you guys said that that resonate with me. Um, the respect part of it. When you come from this business from the outside in, when you didn't train at Windy City, you didn't train anywhere specifically, you came in from the broadcast side, it's a high hill and a high bar that you have to walk up before people will take you seriously. And it's taken me many years to be taken seriously to a certain extent anyway. And I think it's all about respect. When I started working at GPW, I was doing security and I was taking tickets. And I had a conversation with a woman who was really nice. She was very nice, very sweet, very kind. Next thing I know, Braun the Lumberjack says, "Hey, we're going to make you general manager at GPW." And I'm like, "Why? I'm a commentator. I have no experience." And he's like, "Well, my mom talked to you for the last hour and she thought you were really good at talking."
And here's the crazy part. You're saying that, and you're saying that, I remember that night, and you're like, I'm taking tickets, and I'm like, but there was nobody else over there but Braun's mom.
So actually, I have Braun's mom. You guys all have Braun's mom to thank for me doing what I do now at some point. But I also, when you said what it was a big thing for you when Vic hit you. I feel the same way in a certain extent when I do get involved in the physical part of it, because when I got chopped by Marche, as much as it hurt and as much as I hate it and as much as I have night terrors now about it, it was, to say that I got chopped by Marche, it's a big deal because, that's something that's kind of like a badge of honor. So I get that part of it too. And now that, I'm on Vic's bad side and CSW, if at some point I get a pop from him, I won't like it at the time, but that's one of those things of like, man, I just got punched out by Vic Capri. These are things that a wrestling fan,
if you survive,
if I survive, right, exactly. But I get what you're saying. When things like that happen, those are big moments. And Vic was saying, I don't like it when they call me the legend. It's really hard with guys like you that have been around for so long. And when Vic walks into the locker room and when C Red walks into the locker room, people gravitate toward you naturally because of who you are and who you've been. And it's really hard to not want to show you that kind of respect because it's, even though you don't like it, it's the God's honest truth. And you've earned that stuff So when, on commentary, I'm calling you an icon and a legend, and I'm typing all of these things, it's not to make uncomfortable and it's not to blow smoke. It's plain and simply the truth. And everybody around knows it. So, when you go to a show, especially like we had at CSW Friday night, you're part of a 3-man now, but when you guys hit and you come out with your hood on and just in a bad mood, and the way you go at those fans, I mean, it's like watching somebody teaching class. And that's a beautiful thing for all the young people in the locker room to see, because you've said it many times, and Red has said it many times too. Doesn't matter what you do in the ring necessarily, it's what kind of reaction you get from the people. And before Nick swings a punch, takes a shot, knocks somebody on their head, he's already hated by everybody when he's heel, because he gets into it with the fans. And I've been standing there at times, like when I was stripping him of his title back at an outdoor show. He got out of the ring when we were cutting this bit, and he and this guy are getting, and I'm thinking, my God, somebody better get over there, because it seems so real. And it was really pretty amazing. But that's the kind of thing that I think that the people that are young need to know, is that, you can fly around all you want to, but if you don't get over with the crowd, it's kind of useless, because you're not really telling a story at that point. So kudos to both of you for being master storytellers and masters of your craft.
Thank you. And that's something I really enjoy. And like I said, in other podcasts is, the time I was down with the tricep injury was really time for me to reflect. And it really lit something in me when I came back. I mean, there was doubt in my mind of coming back, actually. I was kind of enjoying having Saturdays not doing anything. Then I realized I'm too old to be going to bed at 9 o'clock. I'm not too old to be going to bed at 9 o'clock on a Saturday. And I really have no social life otherwise. Because truthfully, I'm very, very introverted. So to see me when I'm in the ring is complete polar opposite of who I really am. So it was one of those things where it's like, I'm going to do this, that I'm going to go full bore, and we're going to make some changes, and I'm going to go back to who I was, before, I got my neck injury years and years ago. I want to go to that intensity and that place that I was when I very first came back too. So it's, and I think it's showing. I mean, the crowd is reacting to it, and I think the matches have been even better since I came back. So I really enjoyed them.
It really has been interesting. I mean, when you went down with that injury, it put a lot of things on, it tilted a lot of things off the axis. I mean, we were all set to see you at CCW at Grapple Masters in October. And then that happened, and, you were champion at CSW when this happened. So that kind of changed the trajectory of some of the storylines. And, you were really cool about it. And you're like, well, I'm going to rehab, I'll be back. But nobody expected you to come back as quickly as you did, as strongly as you did.
Who did?
Well, I mean, it superhuman people. I mean,
I told you, I've known Vic. So first of all, when he hurt his neck, nobody expected him to come back as soon as he did from that.
Right.
Like, and me and Marche used to always, I don't know if he ever heard us crack this joke, but we always wondered if Vic is part like Cyborg.
I've heard that said. I've heard that said he's part.
Because I've never seen anybody. It's almost like, and nobody wants to get hurt. Let me just put that out there, people. Nobody wants to get hurt. But if he happens to get hurt, it's almost like watching a modern day I'm not going to say million, I'll say $1 trillion man. Because all of a sudden, and we never see, like, we don't see his training regimen. We don't see, if you guys remember back in the day, like when Triple H blew out his leg or his quad or whatever, and they showed the operation and then showed him back in the gym working. We've never seen any footage of Vic, right? But then all of a sudden, you're thinking, oh, okay, he's probably out for another, 6 months to a year, whatever. And then boom, he's back. And then he's bigger. And he's meaner. Yeah. And he's nasty. And it's like, dude, like, he went to the ring at one show, and he didn't know, but I was just like, so when he went out there, I was like, doo 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 doo, and like Marche looked at me like, "What are you singing?" I said, "That's the $6 million man," because this dude then came back
Better than he
bigger,
was before,
stronger,
stronger,
faster.
Yep.
I'm like, and every time it happens. So when he came back this time, it's like, and you're talking about like, I'm like, he coming back nastier. I feel sorry for anybody that's in that path.
That's exactly right. I remember we were sitting at the CSW show. We were outside, and we were getting ready for Sky Blue Kylie Ray, and Vic was there and Marche. Everybody was going to watch this match, and this is the first time we'd seen Vic since he got hurt, and his arm was all in this big mechanical sleeve, and he's talking about, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to see how I do, and so I'm like, this really sucks. He's going to be gone for a while, and what they had planned was really cool. So, and we're sitting there watching the match, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to be back before you know it. And I'm looking at that sleeve going, oh, man, dude, that's nasty. I mean, it looks bad. And then next thing you know, yeah, I'm going to be back and I'll be ready for it. And then when he came back, we're outside the ring, and, I've known Vic for quite a few years, and we had our little exchange. And I don't know if you've seen the footage of him yelling at me, but I really had some pretty high anxiety because I'd never really had him directly yell at me before, like directly, like face to face, eye to eye. And I went from big general manager with the Tony Stark glasses to like a 10-year-old kid at school going, "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to take the title, sir."
You did. It was, I remember seeing your face and look in your eyes of this deer in headlights of, oh God, he's gonna kill me next.
Yeah, like
there's the look on your face, and it was just like, that's the reaction I wanted. I did, because you didn't know I was coming back to do it, and I did it, and it was perfect.
I'll never forget it. And like I said, I look forward to seeing where it goes from here. You've been doing this a hell of a long time, and we know where you started, and we know where you've been. What have been some of the places you've been that you're the most proud of, that you look back and you're like, while you're sitting there, while you're getting rehab done, and you're thinking back and reflecting, what are some of the highlights that you consider them to be?
Oh God. Well, it's not really necessarily where I was, but more of like who I wrestled. So like actually getting to wrestle Jerry Lynn in a tag match and then a hardcore match was, for Pro Wrestling Blitz, was a major highlight. I got to work Raven before Dreamwave. It was Revolution Championship, and I worked with Raven one time. It's so those are some of the highlights with the bigger names that I've worked, aside from working like Punk and Ace and those guys. But then there's always like the Mike Modest and Donovan Morgan, tagging with Austin Aries and ECWA, twice. Yeah, it's those moments really kind of sit with you, and they never go away. And I mean, I said this in other podcasts, when the guys like Diamond Dallas Page see you at a show, they meet you, then afterwards tell you had a really good match, they really enjoyed it, and then you see them 6 months later, and in a dark hallway, you say hi to them, and you're like, "Hey, you're Vic. I remember you." And it's moments like that. Those are the things that really stand out, is when you left a good impression on somebody. Whether it's a fan, a name, another wrestler in the locker room. Those are really the things that stand out more than anything else. When I came back, it wasn't to, try and see if I get a contract somewhere. I already figured I was too old for that, and kind of a risk with the neck injury. So shut up.
We now know who let the dogs out.
Yeah. So it was to help the younger guys, to go out there and give them an opportunity to, teach them what I learned, and that way they could have a match. If the match was good enough, they could put it on a highlight reel and try and send it to see if they got noticed. That was my goal when I first came back. So
I've seen that many times before with you. since we've been working at CSW for, the last 8 months. I watch you backstage and I watch you talking, with all the people. Even this past Friday, I saw you, kind of going over some things with some of the young people, and I watch them look at you and I watch them listen, and I see them soaking it up. But what I feel like is something that I don't know if most people get. You are one of the most approachable people when it's in the locker room. They'll come up to you and you'll go to them and you'll give advice, and they'll ask you questions. And I've seen you stay long. I've seen you stay late. I've seen you talk to everybody. You really are what I would consider a definitive locker room leader. And I think, with all the young talent that we have at CSW that they're trying to develop, I think you're a valuable tool. And I know John Bullard in CCW kind of looks at you the same way. Are you, is that satisfying to you that, you've been in this business so long and now you're this guy that's kind of a mentor and somebody that's passing on everything that you've learned to make the young people better at what they do?
Yeah, I love it. And I've gotten it a lot, especially because of my character being intense and mean. Whether I'm a good guy or a bad guy, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't change. But a lot of people, some people don't really understand that I am approachable. They're not sure really who I am until they start to talk to me. And it's like, all right, what do you want to do? And if they say, I don't know, like, well, then you're not doing anything. So walk away, come back with something you want to do, and then we'll put it together. Because I'm not going to call your offense. You got to contribute. I'm not calling everything for you. We're working together here. So bring something to the table for me. And I love getting to help the guys and critique guys. I have no problem. A lot of people will ask you to watch their match that night. And for me, it gets difficult because I'm focusing on what I'm going to do. And part of the thing is, like I said, I'm very introvert. So to go out there and be Vic, I have to get myself worked up for it. I'm not, when I show up at the gym, yes, I'm angry because it's been a long day and I'm stressed and work always sucks. But so Vic kind of walks into the gym most of the times. But at a show, you're around everybody, everybody's having a good time. It's like, now I got to get into character and I have to turn it off. So I actually prefer, if a guy wants me to watch his match, they send me a clip, send it to me on Facebook or something. Let me watch it and I'll write up what I think about it, because that way I can also go back and forth on. Just trying to actually sit and watch a match while I'm getting ready for mine, it's difficult for me. And then I feel like I'm not prepared enough to go out there and do my thing for the fans.
And see, I noticed that, again, just one of the little things I noticed when we were at Dreamwave, and how, if you've ever watched Vic get ready for a match, like, not saying that he sits off to the side by himself, but like,
he had my spot in the corner.
And you kept that spot.
He still has it. He still has that spot.
No, but you don't understand.
No,
so like
at Dreamwave, I would show up if I was late and somebody's bag was in my spot. I just moved it, put my bag down, and sat down and didn't move until they came back to get their bag. And I'm like, this is where I sit.
And again, and here's the funny part. A lot of times, do I always say that? Why do we
always?
Okay, always. Whatever.
It wouldn't be Power Hour without you saying, now here's the funny part. I'm gonna get that. I got t-shirts coming. That's gonna be on there.
Because it is hilarious. Because again, you watch some young kid, and again, so he just, so you have to grasp the concept. Meetings were like 3:30, if I'm correct, yeah. Vic, like 3:30. So most guys, they will already be there 12, 1 o'clock. So again, you try to get there at meeting time. So if you got there at 3:30, 9 times out of 10, you're just shooting upstairs so you can be ready for the meeting. Every now and then, again, sometimes you can't make the meeting because you get off work late or what have you. Prior obligations, you get there before the show starts. So to see a young kid, and he sits his bag in that corner and nobody says anything, because we all know, like we've heard the card. Vic Capri is on this card. And we're just like, so like my little spot would be at the table and I would just sit there. But I'm always looking directly at Vic. And I would just sit there. And I would just sit there. And I'm waiting for it. And Vic would just, whose is this? And everybody would just go, eh. And he wouldn't throw it. He'll sit it down. He'll sit down. And then here comes the kid, like he done ran to McDonald's or something and got something to eat. And he comes back and he looks at Vic. And he's like, oh, is this your bag? Here you go, kid. You know, and it's like,
I mean, I wouldn't always do that. I would sit down and I would tell them, like, I would be there when they would come back, and I would like, I'd either find, if I could, I'd find another chair and put it next to me, because there was a little table was right there. And I put my stuff there and I put my bag next to me. So it was always like, there was another chair, I would just put them into the chair next to me and be like, you can sit there. And then, you know, I would do my thing, and I'm like, if they were changing, I would wait until they were done. When they get up, I would sit down and then I would change. They could share it. I'm like, when I'm done with my match, I'm going to watch the monitor, because it's a straight shot to the monitor from that chair too. So I'm keeping that seat after that. But
but to watch him, so to go back to watch Vic get ready, like there are few people I've ever seen like are laser focused, like, and you knew, like, I hate if I had a spot with Vic, I hate trying to remember the spot and then having to go up to Vic and ask him what's the spot. Like I would like, because when he tapes up, like, oh my God, like the only time you better interrupt him, like somebody in his family is hurt, you know, or something, it better be 911 serious. It better not be a bunch of BS.
Again, that's the being intimidated by me, because anytime somebody, if you got a spot with me, come up to me and ask me. I don't care if we got to go over it 1,000 times.
Well, that's why I would wait till we go upstairs to Gorilla, and I'd be like, okay, so say that spot one more time. Oh, okay, all right, I got it.
But I would have rather gone down. I would have rather gone over it with you 100 times downstairs while I was taping up.
I'd be too. I was too scared.
You don't have to worry about anything.
And here's why. So my very first Windy City show, it was an outside Renaissance fair, whatever, for Sam, somewhere, and they had one trailer, and all the vets were in a air-conditioned room. And it's like 10 of them. So there's Ripper and Boz, and all of them are in this tight room, but it's got AC. So they comfortable. All of us rookies, we're in the other part of like the kitchen part or whatever, and we're all just sweating our heads. Like, we like, oh my God. And like they were yelling at rookie after rookie after rookie. And it was like, okay, I'm never going to talk to a vet ever in my life, ever. So when I have met all of my idols, it's still intimidating. Now, again, I've got better relationships with some than others. I believe I've got a great relationship with Vic, but Vic is so intimidating getting ready. You just don't want to take that. For me, I just don't want to take that chance.
He's very intense. Even at the end of the show this past Friday at CSW, there was a bit where they're doing a run-in at the end, and him and the Monster Cypher are standing, getting ready to go, and it's supposed to be Cutler as well, and Cutler's not there. And Vic just kind of turns and looks up at Cypher, and he says, "Where the hell is Cutler?" And Cypher's like, "I don't know." And he's like, and Vic's like, "Cutler!" And all of a sudden, it's like the dinner bell went off, and Cutler in his little pink tights is just it's hilarious how that stuff works. But it's like, when Vic had to raise his voice to call Cutler because he wasn't there. But when Vic talks, all of a sudden it's like, people are listening.
It's funny. Paulie Tomaselli tells it one time we were doing a promo in the ring at SSW, And Paulie started talking. I just looked at him and was like, "Shut up, Paulie!" And he just like was like, "Okay." We got in the back and he's like, "God, I felt like my dad was yelling at me." I just like snapped into place, like, "Holy shit!"
It's exactly what happened to me when we're standing out there at ringside and you started yelling. I'm like, I felt like, anyway, that was very, very cool.
My
very,
daughter even tells me when my daughter has told me when I get mad, she's like, "You're not you anymore. Your face changes. You're Vic when you get mad."
This may or may not be a good thing down the line, but I think it'll be a good thing. I didn't work with you for a while, after PCW. And then all of a sudden you're back on GPW for one night as Jeffro King was retiring. And it was one of those moments, you don't see these things all that often. It had a big fight feel to it, not because it was going to be a big fight, but I think everybody that was at the arena that night kind of understood what was happening. And I remember as they're in the ring doing their stuff, not only are people peeking through the curtain, but half the locker room got out from behind the drapery and were kind of lining the walls watching it. And I remember thinking to myself, I really did not know that much about Jeffro. I mean, I knew the Rage. I'd heard Mitch tell the stories, but I didn't really understand the history until I watched the match and I heard them on the microphone afterwards. When somebody retires and you're there as that final match, what does that mean to you? Because I can't imagine it happens all that often, but it's really seemed like one of those, oh my God moments. Like I really felt like I was witnessing something important.
Well, for me, it was huge. You kind of have to go back to my third match or fourth match in professional wrestling to explain where it started. So about 3 months in, I got my first match, wrestled Terry Allen a couple of times. And Mike Carey, who was Skulls Manson and then became Nick the Cobra Cabrera with the outfit, herniated a few discs in his lower back, and him and Iron Mike Sampson were the tag champs. So Sam kind of decided to go ahead and just fast forward everything. And the next thing I know, never actually winning them. It was Samson and I were the tag champs together. And it was the Furies, which was Mitch Blake, Jeffro King, and then, oh God, I can't remember the other name, Ricky Castro. And so right away, this is my fourth and fifth match in, and these guys that have been wrestling and training for 2-3 years at that point, all of a sudden have to put me over. And it's only my fourth match. So, and it was those guys, it was the Furies, it was Jeffro and Mitch especially, and that's kind of where the bond came between me and those guys. And when I first came back, it was Mitch that got in my ear. And so I was going to come back. I wanted one more match. My daughter seen me live, and I wanted to return the favor because Mitch had to put me over, and I was still really green. And so I got to do that. And then I just kind of said, shit, it bit me. Let's go. And I've been sticking around since 2009. And then when the opportunity, Mitch gave me the opportunity to work with Jeff and put him over on his retirement match, it was like, then that's perfect. I never got to thank Jeff. This is my opportunity. Let's go out there. We'll go have some fun. And that's what it was. It was, they took this green kid and they helped me look good and helped teach me. And I owed them. I really owed both of them for that. As much as I owed Mike Sampson and Sam and Mike Anthony and everybody, the Furies, I really, really owed them that because of, they were the ones that had, like I said, had to put me over. And there was some jealousy and there was some bad blood with other people in the locker room because of it. Nobody would ever say it to my face, but I heard the whispers. And, those guys weren't selfish. And that was a big lesson for me to learn from them as well. So it was huge. And I love Jeffro. Actually, I'm not religious. My mother is, and we would go to midnight mass or Easter mass, and I see him there with his family all the time when I go to those things. So I make sure I say hi to them. But yeah, he's a wonderful guy. His wife is a great woman. His kids are fantastic too. So I love those guys.
And that was a magic night, and you really did great work in giving him the send off that he deserved. And Mitch is a very polarizing figure, especially nowadays. But there isn't anybody in the business that's taught me more about it than Mitch Blake. And it's not fashionable to call him friend in some people's eyes, but I never shy away from it, because I wouldn't be doing this without some of the things that he did for me. So I get that part of it. When you got injured, you were pulled out of the title match for the championship at CCW the Chicagoland Championship Wrestling Grapple Masters, and we're getting ready to have the second Grapple Masters in June. I've seen the Vic Capri baseball card. Your trading card is out there, I'm sure, collecting all sorts of value as it gets older. You're there. You're part of it, and we know it, and we know that the arrival is coming. What is your take on Chicagoland Championship Wrestling? I don't know if you've seen the first show, what your thoughts are on not only the product, but John Bullard and the things that are going on there. What do you say about Chicagoland Championship Wrestling?
I think John's vision is tremendous. He's not one of those guys that came in like, what was it, the super fad back in the early 2000s, or NLW over in St. Louis and Kansas City. Somebody just threw a whole bunch of money at it and was going to just take over the world, and everything fell flat. Or even Resistance Pro here in Chicago. So, you worked for them, didn't you? Oops. But he has a lot of knowledge. He did it where he used to live. He knows what he's doing. He's doing it the right way. He's not just spending a bunch of money, bringing in all these big name people to try and make something happen and just have it completely blow up and then the well run dry. He's taking the local guys and he's looking to try and make them stars. It's similar to like Dave Marquez does at Championship Wrestling in Hollywood. He really doesn't use a lot of guys from outside of the SoCal area. And that's what he does. And it's the production of it and how you run it. And when John first reached out to me, when he first came in and had the idea, he had mentioned, Mike Modest told me to get in touch with you. And something like that. I was like, well, I love Modest. He's a great guy. And when I came back, he hit me up, and I was going out to Vegas and wrestling for the company he was working for there. So to know that kind of person still has that much confidence in me to tell this guy who's never met me, nothing, to say, get a hold of Vic if you want to do this. And I mean, I feel terrible because of the fact that I had to miss, and I was still supposed to be there and supposed to age in a couple matches, and had emergency with my dog that had to go to the vet because his throat was closing because of thought it was an allergic reaction. It was something else. But so, I feel horrible that I had to miss it on him because, him and I have talked, just on the side, just message back and forth throughout the day at times. And he's a great guy. I mean, just flat out, he's a really good guy. And we both have a lot of very similar ideas for wrestling and just personal life. So there's really, I think there's a good connection there. And I think it's something that's really, you give it the time, it's something that could really turn into something huge. Little tweaks from what I've seen from the initial show, things that I could suggest. I'll talk with John about those things that I think, little tweaks that we could make that could make the production look a little better. But the guys he's got right now, some of them are starting to break out too. Some of them are starting to work for Game Changer and other places. And so there's a lot of stuff happening, and he's doing everything so well. From getting it on Apple TV and Amazon Prime, all these places, and getting the viewing over in Germany and things like that, and on public access in different areas of this country. He throws it out there, and it speaks for itself, to be honest with you. The fact that you could have the first show and then just submit that to all these people and everybody jumps onto it, that really says something about what he's doing, and that he knows what he's doing and he's taking it in the right direction. So, I mean, it really speaks for itself.
So here we are. We're approaching the second one, and I'm assuming in some form or fashion, Vic Capri will make his presence felt. I mean, you're healthy again. You've got a lot of there's a lot of buzz about how you could affect what's going to happen in June. I don't want to know, because doing commentary, I'm all about surprises. I was doing commentary this weekend at SCW. And unbeknownst to anybody in the building, Terry Allen made an appearance to become their new president. And it was one of those moments I'm like, it's Terry Allen. What the hell is he doing here? So it's the spontaneity that Hunter Payne really likes. He doesn't really tell you a lot what's going on. And I think that's good for John too. We don't really know a lot about what's happening, so we can be completely authentic when we're calling it. But I have to believe in some form or fashion, the ice pick is going to show up in June.
Oh, I am. I'm definitely going to be there. Like I said, I feel horrible that I missed even to just be an agent while I was injured. I am 100% going to be there, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I have my sights set on what I want to do. But of course, I'm not going to tell you that either. You are going to have to wait and see. I am somebody also that there are a lot of times that I prefer not knowing what I'm doing or who I'm wrestling on a show until I get there. I mean, I have issues where my mind doesn't stop running. So if it's somebody and I get excited that I'm going to wrestle, I won't sleep for a couple nights, because I just have stuff running through my head of different scenarios of what we're going to do. And so sometimes it is better that I don't know ahead of time. And sometimes it's better that I don't think about it until that moment occurs and I make the decision that that's what I'm going to do. And we just go from there. So
the ice, you heard it here. The ice pick is coming to Michigan City on June 12th for CCW Grapple Masters, which you can watch on Amazon Prime, Powered 4 TV, Fight TV, Apple TV. You can see it anywhere. And this is going to be the second show. So if you like the first show, you'll like the second one even better. Which brings me down to CSW, which is where we get to meet up. What? I'm working on it.
You want to poke that bear, don't you? G-Red's telling you no, but you still want to poke that bear.
I tell him stop stirring the pot. Stop poking the bear.
I'm not poking the bear, because
we've had a nice, friendly conversation, interview, whatever you want to call it.
We're going to poke the bear. I wanted to share a story about CSW and what Vic was just saying. I'm not poking the bear. This is going too well for me to want to poke anything at this point. Vic was saying how he doesn't like to, know what he's doing. And I was watching and listening as he was getting ready for the match that he was going to have this past Friday. And one of our great young talents in CSW, Sabin Gage, I was listening to them talk, and Vic is talking, well, I saw this and I'd like to do this. And I was listening to them go back and forth with ideas, and I couldn't picture it in my head what they were going to be doing. But as I'm sitting there looking through the curtain, watching their match, and you should be able to see it very soon, as the articulator, Steve Kenton, will have it on his YouTube page. What he did in that match was something that I don't think I've ever seen presented quite that way. It was I was not expecting that style of match from someone like Vic Capri. And Vic, can you speak a little bit about what made that match so interesting? Because it really was different than what I'm used to seeing from someone like you.
Well, Sabin is one of those guys. I said it on another podcast when somebody asked me, who is somebody currently that would be able to make it back 20 years ago and put up with the way things were. And I right away thought about it, Saban and Sky Blue. So Saban won me over, and so did Sky at a ICW show up in Milwaukee. And some of the other CSW guys were there, and they left after their match. Saban wrestled, stuck around. Sky didn't even wrestle. And both of them stuck around and helped tear down the ring afterwards. And I took note of it. And I went to, like Jason Hayes and those guys and said, hey, just so you know, they like to give out bonuses here and there for like match of the night and stuff like that. And I said, if you're going to do a match of the night, split it between these two. And this is why. Like, she wasn't even on the show and she helped tear down. Saban stuck around and nobody else from CSW did. That told me something about their character. They're hungry and they want it. And from watching Saban, and when we finally got to go in there and do the match, and when they told us the structure of the way they wanted it was it's a more fast pace. I like to slow things down more. But it's okay. I mean, I know if I'm in there with somebody I know can handle it, I'm fine with it. And Saban, I knew could handle it. And unfortunately, I didn't know the other two guys really well. They did a great job. I'm not knocking them at all. It's just that I knew Saban and I knew what his potential was. And so that's why we talked out the things we did, and we did the spots we did. I even showed him the one spot on video on Instagram. Said, this is exactly what we're going to do, like step for step. And he was like, oh shit, that's awesome. And we just ran with it. And the clothesline at the spot that I'm talking about, they just put the clip up on Instagram. And
I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I didn't listen to it with sound, but I heard the crack when I hit him with the clothesline. And I've already messaged him between that and the V trigger along the ropes and said, are you sure you're okay? Because the rope didn't stop me on the V trigger. I ended up going, and normally when I hit it, the middle or bottom rope will stop my body so I don't kill the guy and he can flop. And I went straight through the ropes and ended up on the apron and knocked him to the floor. And I'm like, are you sure you're okay from the clothesline? And he goes, yeah, I was fine. I'm like, you took that shit like $1 million because I thought I killed you. So he's got a ton of potential. He knows what he's doing and he wants to learn. And I really like the kid and I look forward to working with him again.
It was really cool. And the man has an unbreakable neck, because I've seen Hades drop him on his back, on the back of his neck, and you swear to God he's dead. But somehow he gets back up and isn't dead. So it's pretty cool. It's interesting to hear you talk about again, that's what the point was, is how giving you are to the young people and how respectful you are. And, that kind of, it's fun to hear, because I think wrestling is in really good hands. As far as CSW goes, you're part of the Burning now. That's been your thing for a bit. Also, real quick, before we talk about the Burning, the steel cage match that you and Brubaker had, I feel like people don't. That was a really, really fun match to watch. And I know people were like, oh, the ending was. If you go back and watch that on YouTube, that is a really interesting match, the way you guys did it. Do you like steel cage matches? Is that something that you've done often, or is that not something you do very often?
Most people don't, just the companies don't do them often because it's difficult to find a person who has a cage and get it. Yeah, if somebody does have it, it's rented for something. So I don't mind it. It really doesn't change that much of what we're gonna do. It just adds a weapon to the match. Basically, it adds another dimension. I've only really done, I think, 3 or 4 cage matches. I think the 5th one is a week from Saturday up in Wisconsin. So I've done a lot more other just hardcore matches and things like that instead, just because it's less expensive for the company to get a whole bunch of weapons instead of renting the cage. And a lot of people don't like doing it because you take an intermission, and then the cage is normally the main event, so you have to take a second intermission to put the cage together, and they're worried about killing the crowd before they get to the main event. But I don't mind it. It doesn't make a difference to me if it's a cage match, a hardcore match, ladder match, whatever the promoter wants. I don't have an issue with it, and I I don't mind it. I mean, I've been busted open plenty of times. I've been busted open way more times since I came back in '09 than the first 5 or 6 years when I started. But I've broken my nose probably more than anybody. But yeah, it's just it changes the psychology of the match, and it just adds another dimension to it. It gives you something else to play off of in the storytelling.
That I think is my favorite part of you and your character and what you've brought to every company that I've seen you work for. And Red is really good at this too, and he talks about it all the time. I really think you know how to tell a story and tell them very well. Before we let you go, talk about storytelling psychology in wrestling and how important that is. A lot of people fly around the ring and want to get their spots in, and you hear about that all the time. Uh, but storytelling and psychology is, I think, where it's at and where it always will be. And I think when you get too heavily invested in the flippy stuff, I think something gets lost in the translation. What are your thoughts on storytelling and psychology?
It's vital. If you don't give the fans something to buy into and you're just doing cool moves, it, you're not giving them. There's no reason for them to buy into you. It's like, yeah, he's really athletic. What about him do you like? He's athletic. Okay. But if you're not creating that emotional bond between you and them, whether they love you or they hate you, that's where you're not working. You're really not working. You have to be able to do that. I see tons of guys that'll do crazy moves and get up and pop the crowd, and the next minute the other guy's doing something to them, and nobody sells. And I tell everybody now, go watch Ishii, go watch Okada. Don't watch anything in the U.S. It's so watered down, and it's hard to watch for me, other than AEW and some of the stuff in NXT. Like, go look at the match from a couple weeks ago, Ciampa versus Walter. He worked his hand after Walter chopped the commentator's table. It was genius. And the storytelling in the match was amazing. Just everything they did. Walter still beating the crap out of Ciampa, Ciampa fighting back, coming from behind and almost winning and then losing. That's where you really draw somebody in and you make them want to believe, and you take away that wrestling's fake. You give that hint of, or you make them forget that it's fake, and you make them buy into what's going on. And when it doesn't go the way they wanted, they go, oh, and
Yeah.
that's what you want. That's really what you want more than anything. And if it's just a whole bunch of spots and stuff like that, you don't get that. You just get a finish. Yay, somebody won. You have to get them to buy into that. And if you can't, you're really not working. If you sound like a broken record, I'm saying the same thing over and over, but if you don't do it, like I said, you're just not working. You have to make them believe in you. I mean, I worked Cal Hero up for GLCW. It was actually my first match back, and Dave Hero, the promoter, is going, do about 70-30 you and give him the flash pin for the win. Okay. We go out there, and I didn't realize we were a half a mile from the place where Cal went to high school. He walks out and the crowd goes crazy. And it was just like, okay. It ended up being 70-30 him, because I didn't have to do anything. All I did was punch him and then look at the crowd and mean mug the crowd yell at the crowd, punch him again, hold him down with my foot on his head, blah, blah, blah. And that's all I had to do. I didn't have to do anything else because they bought into it and they just wanted to see him fire back at me. And so it's like I can honestly say I didn't have to work hard, but I knew where to make the change to just say he needs to hit me because that's what they want. And when I start to look like I'm going to cheat and win and he reverses it on me, we'll get the big pop and we'll go. And that's where you really get it. And you pull the people into that, and you have to know when to make that switch.
See, Red, I know that's a big thing for you, as far as, and again, that's, I think, something that you do as good, if not better than most people, is what the minute you walk out, you got the crowd going one way or the other, depending on what you're doing. How much do you agree with what Vic just said?
You already know. It's 100%. It is 100. Again, whether Vic grasps the concept or not, Vic is one of the people that taught me that. You have to understand, I wasn't just a fan of Windy City. I studied Windy City. Like, I went and bought every belts tape I could ever find because I wanted to understand wrestling. See, there's a difference when you're a fan, you're watching to be entertained. When I got into business, the fan went out the window and I had to study. And I want to know why people were doing what they were doing and how they got the reaction from the crowd. So, as Vic said, like, I hate when you see somebody and they do a 450 splash off the top, hit the guy, bam, and then the guy that just got hit, he nips up, and then it's a dragon, and it's like, huh, what? Now, I've grown a little bit. I believe every show, if that happens in one match during the show, that's fine. I believe, me personally, I believe there's, in a regular show, there's a spot for everything. So there's a spot for comedy. There's a spot for maybe a little bit more hardcore, not necessarily blood and guts, but I feel there's a spot for everything. But if every match is, because the crowd is going to get burnt out because they got to think constantly. If the first, I mean, let's be honest.
If you're going from 0 to 100 from the opener to the main event, halfway through the show, you've lost the crowd because, one, there's nothing else for them to see, and two, they're tired. There's a place for everything, like you said, on every show. Hardcore, scramble matches, high flying matches, anything. I'm not knocking. I don't want to come across as I'm knocking what they're doing. Those guys, you see people like Will Ospreay and Ricochet when they did their matches in Japan, and it was nonstop movement, and it's phenomenal to watch. It still has that, oh shit, that was crazy in your head moment, but it doesn't really buy you into either one of them. But it's still super entertaining to watch, and I still won't miss it. I'll still go back and watch that stuff all the time. But like you said, there's a spot for comedy. If you put all of that stuff into one show and give everybody a little bit of everything, now you really got a complete show. And now the whole show and the company tells a story as well as just matches. And it really needs to be more of that instead of this show does all of this and this show does all of that, stuff like that. And if you can and you just bottle it all together, you've got a winner.
The best companies are the ones that can hold the attention of the audience from the opening bell of the first match to the final maneuver in the main. And, they're few and far between.
And that's hard. And people don't understand that is hard.
Well, go back. I preach this to everybody too, especially a lot of the guys that are high flyers. If you watch anything from Kenny Omega, anything he's done, he can move fast. He can do tons of stuff, and he can do those spot matches. But then you take Kenny Omega and Okada, and in 4 matches over about 2 years period, they wrestled for a total of almost 4 hours, probably about 3 hours and 45 minutes or so in those 4 matches. And you see those spots, but they're all paced out. They sell in between and they do stuff and they make you buy into what's going on in the match. And you can watch, especially the hour draw and the 2 out of 3 falls. The 3 of them total are 3 hours and 10 minutes or so. And those just alone are just the way they do them, and you buy into everything and the story they still tell. They hit those quick, fast spots here and there, but they bring it back and they make you just buy in. And the whole thing in the first one was it took Okada 56 minutes to beat him. And then in the second match, he couldn't actually pin him. You know, that was the whole thing behind it. Is that's when he finally said, I still want Omega. We're going to do this because I wasn't able to beat you last time. So it told that story, and they're great at it. And you don't have to even watch the English commentary on New Japan World to pick up on the story they're trying to tell and what they're doing. Just watch the match and they do it in the ring and how they work. And that's something that is incredible.
Vic, you've been very generous with your time, and the stories are everything I hope they'd be. Before I let you go, one final thought. CSW, we're back in action May 21st. The burning will definitely be there. You guys have got you've got bad intentions on your mind, and as general manager, get a little nervous with the bad intentions. We named the last show Inglorious Bastards, and it was kind of about the burning. I mean, maybe the burning is why we called it Inglorious Bastards.
I don't mind being the bastard. I'm fine with that.
I mean, I've looked in your eyes as the general manager, and you stared a hole into my soul. And I was talking about, hey, how cool would it be if I got punched by Vic Capri? Although I think it would be cool, I'm not looking for that to happen anytime soon. And just, because we're talking here, having fun, just so you know, it's not good to mess with the boss. I'm just saying, just a little public service.
And I told you before, go ahead and find me or suspend me. All it's going to do is make me come back even meaner.
So
it's not going to change anything. I'm still going to be me. I'm going to do what I want until you're ready to give me my title back. It's that simple.
Vic Capri, it seems as if the general manager and the ice pick will eventually be inexplicably in each other's faces. And
stay.
I'll sign my life insurance. I'm hoping it doesn't go that far. But
stay.
Yeah, right.
Stay. Rapid fire. Let's wrap this up. Rapid fire.
Okay, we're gonna end this with rapid fire. It's a segment we do every week where I name a couple of wrestlers, and I just want to hear your thoughts straight off the cuff, what you think. Starting off with a man you know well, a man that has created issue in your life, CSW heavyweight champion, the Filth King, Nick Brubaker.
You want this on a personal note or a wrestling note?
I'm going to let you pick, however you want to go.
On a personal note, I love the guy to death, like a brother. There are issues in our lives that have mirrored each other, and we've been there for each other. On the wrestling note, the way he held the title for 2 years, and all of a sudden I'm the cheater somehow, and he's your golden boy, so he has to fall.
Interesting. Let's keep it in the CSW family. Let's talk about a man that we both know and respect, Jason Hades.
Hades is a great guy. Hades is the one that got me back in CSW, and he told me how they were making some changes, and I love him to death. I've only gotten to wrestle with him twice, and I'd love to get to share the ring with him. I know he's a super talented guy.
See, Red, do you have anybody you want to throw out there? I never let you name anybody.
Oh, I mean, I was just paying attention to CSW. Hey,
I'm working on it, Red. I'm working on it.
There we go. You know me, Vic, so I'm gonna shoot you. I'm gonna give you, of course, Marche Rocket.
Of course.
All day. That's on TV Or
Right
was
now,
on TV.
was on TV.
Was on
Yeah,
TV.
Marche has the hardest chops and the biggest hands, I think, in the business.
Him and
He
Gary
is-
Gay on Friday night was something that was hard to watch.
I mean, he lit me up at the last show. We were at the Eagles Club for CSW, and he did it one time. I've got a picture I posted on Facebook before where if you're a palm reader, you can read the palm print on my chest after he chopped me. And I still keep it on my phone, and it's just a reminder. So, but I love him. He's super fun to be around, a great guy.
All right. So it wouldn't be me without being the Revolution. And I know most people are like, who? The Revolution? And here's the funny part. Has anybody ever paid attention? Be quiet, Steve. That Ali's, that whole thing, didn't that feel like the Revolution all over again?
A little bit.
Right. You felt it a little bit, right?
A little bit.
Like,
It missed the evil genius of a Jay Repsol to take it over the top. But yeah, it kind of had that feel. The Revolution was probably some of the most fun I've had. I had never met Ali, and Austin Roberts had come through Windy City after I'd left. So for me to get thrown into it and get to work with those guys, and where they've been and where they currently are, it was phenomenal. It was so much fun. And as soon as Jay told me about it, it was like, okay, this I know this is going to be good, because I knew what Jay and I did with the Chaos Crew when it was me, Punk, and Ace Steel, and I knew where we went with that, and how much fun that was with the Revolution Championship. So yeah, it's amazing, and Ali is probably one of the nicest guys, especially of course because Roberts left, so I didn't get to interact as much with him, but Ali is super nice guy. His wife, nice to say his woman, his wife is adorable. She is the biggest sweetheart. So I love both of them. They're great people.
Last but not least, and I do this at my own peril, what are your thoughts on the CSW general manager?
He's a dick. Not very bright. We already went through this on the other podcast. You're stupid. You strip me of the title. You put Brubaker. You award Brubaker with a title shot after I'm gone, and then you close up shop for 4 months and don't strip Brubaker. And you flat out told me we couldn't have seen this coming. Really, you thought people were going to go to outside shows in December and January in Chicago. I've told you before. Just go ahead and tell everybody how dumb you really are.
And this has been another fine episode of the Power Hour.
I'm loving it.
Thank you to Vic Capri for completely demoralizing my evening. Thank you to C-Red as always. We'll be back next week where our guest will be Tyler Bodine. Vic, again, thank you so much. I'm going to edit out the last 3 minutes because I don't need to be the kind of idiot I am.
Don't.
I appreciate you taking time. Your stories are fantastic. Even though I think you're a dick and I hate you right now, you're a hell of an athlete. And you're the only person that I ever got fined for, because in my third match, in my third broadcasting thing, when I was doing the show at PCW, when you got introduced, it was the first time I'd seen you live. And I said, my God, that man is built like a brick shit house. And I got fined $25 for cursing on the live stream. So you've cost me money. Now you've cost me respect. We'll see what happens May 21st at CSW in Franklin Park. Vic Capri, thank you. C-Red, thank you. Have a good night, y'all. We'll catch you on the next exciting episode of the Power Hour next week. Good night, everybody.